Penny for your thoughts. It means that if you tell me what you're thinking, I give you a penny.
What a nice expression.
Midori, I've got to talk to you. These people love you. They need your strength. All I ever wanted for you was for you to be happy. I guess I always was just your English teacher.
Thank you very much.
Hello and welcome to Comic Book Movie Oblivion, the podcast about feature films based on comic books and comic strips that people have stopped talking about. We are your hosts, Jordan and Kumar, that's me.
And me.
And this week we are talking about The Drifting Classroom from 1987, based on the comic from 1972, in notice of the death of Kazuo Umezz, who passed away in his 80s, probably about a week or two ago at this stage. Let's do a pause the podcast.
For the film?
For both.
No. I don't think you need to pause the podcast.
Yeah.
Wild stuff happens.
Yes.
Spoilers.
There are some twists
Yes, but are
in
they
the
really...
comic. There are kind of reveals
Oh, yeah, I suppose there's...
that flip back and forth.
I don't think...
I'll tell you what, though. I reviewed this comic about 5 years ago when these deluxe hardcover editions came out.
Yep.
For Deconstructing Comics, and I was talking with the cartoonist Ryan Cecil-Smith, and as we were each describing scenes from the book, which we had read over the past few days, we were like, it was all stuff we'd forgotten, because so much happens.
This is a big comic.
Even if I tell you what happens, you're not going to remember it a week from now.
We could tell you 10 wild things. And 30 more are going to happen when you read it.
Yes. And I was listening to that episode. I re-listened to it over the last couple of days. And I mentioned stuff in there which I didn't notice on this read-through. As I was going through it. So
it's really, really long.
It's really long. And
3 volumes.
There's stuff that you don't... There's a temptation to read it really fast, but there's a lot going on if you do that. Which you miss, and then it's there on a reread, so make of that what you will. I think we're going to spoil it, but it is from, it did complete in 74, so we're at the 50th anniversary here.
I think this is a tough one to spoil because there's no resolution, right? I mean...
Yeah, there is a resolution.
And the reveals, and the reveals, they don't really matter.
Yes, the reveals don't matter, but there is an ending. There is a conclusion.
Oh, certainly there's an ending, but it's one of those endings where it's not an ending, and things are going to continue.
Yes, and it seems like Umezz was writing it like he was making it up as he went along for a lot of the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He was like, okay, and then this happens, and then this happens, and this happens. But there are seeds of certain things at the beginning that are never explained, and then 2,000 pages later, you get an explanation of what that is. And now maybe he had that in his back pocket for when his editor said, okay, you've done 12 chapters, time to cancel it, or 20 chapters or whatever, and finally they said, okay, today's the day, and he's like, all right. And then he wrapped up those certain storylines that he had planted the seeds for earlier.
I suppose there's one... I'm going to spoil it.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, so if you haven't paused yet, pause now. They never get home from their exile.
Yep.
So in that respect, I suppose, if you're reading the book hoping... or wondering when they're going to get back, when they're going to complete the hero's journey and return older and wiser to their beginning, they never do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when I was young and read John Wyndham's Day of the Triffids, and I think I was a couple of pages from the end. I was probably about 12. And I said to my English teacher at the time, they've only got 3 pages left to find out how to kill all the Triffids.
Yeah. I love the ending of this for that. For that reason, I love how they're just stuck in the future. But okay, so we got to describe this thing. So first, we'll talk a little bit about Umezz. I won't say much about him. He was an eccentric character.
Yep.
He drew comedy gag manga, which had like a lot of toilet humor and like sexual humor that kids really loved and parents hated, a bit like Dragon Ball.
Right.
I guess.
That's what I thought of straight away.
He walked right into that. He himself famously only ever wore red and white striped shirts. They were like horizontally striped. And when COVID happened, he would wear a white mask and a red hat. So it maintained the pattern. And then he painted his house in these colors.
Yeah, I heard
and there's
about that.
all sorts of complaints from the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And they tried to stop him from doing this, but he did. He got away with it anyway. And you can see a person I know actually, kind of a vague acquaintance, actually managed to get into his house and interview him there and stuff and saw it. It was just like crazy inside as well.
Red and white on the inside too?
Not red and white, but he had all sorts of like trinkets and collectibles and just weird decor everywhere.
There's, on the Japanese Wikipedia page,
Yeah.
there's a story about his painted house
Okay.
relating to this film somehow.
Okay.
So the English the machine translation is no good. So you're probably going to have to go on that Wikipedia page and read it for me, because it seems like he almost something like either he painted his house in protest because he hated the film so much, or he was as angry as his neighbours got about the film as they were about him painting his house.
Huh. I feel like the house painting was like much later.
Okay.
I feel like it was in the 2000s. Not in '87, so I'm not sure about that, but we can figure it out.
Well, it's specifically mentioned. Unfortunately, I can read you the story was so far removed from the original that the setting was changed to an international school in Kobe, and the design and depiction of future humans were completely different. So the original author Umezz decided to paint the striped exterior wall of his home, Makoto-chan House. They are said to be as angry as their angry neighbours. That's from that tangled web is what I drew that story.
Okay.
So if anyone's interested in the resolution of this, tune in next week because Kumar's going to double check.
Okay, so it was serialized in Weekly Shonen Sunday. So it's
funny that it's in a shonen mag because it's really dark.
It is really dark, but it is kids' logic, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's true.
As we go through it. So it was 72 to 74 was 11 volumes. And Viz in the US did publish those 11 volumes, I'm going to say 20 years ago or something.
Right.
Then about 5 years ago, they reprinted them in 3 deluxe hardcovers. Okay, and he's got a new name. So he was, Kazuo Umezz is how you transliterate his name, but he's changed to the English to Umezz at some stage. Umezz.
Cool.
Interesting. Okay. I don't know what the deal is with that.
Sexed it up with two Zs.
It's one of his things. Now all his English works are Umezz. So it's a bit tricky if you're going to look on Amazon. Some of them might say Umezz, some might say Umezz. Okay, so it's about this kid named Sho, who's in grade 6. He's 12 years old. Yep. Sho Takamatsu. He wants to buy a toy, which is called a future car. He sees it in a shop window. He desires this toy.
Has it always been called Future Car in all the translations?
I'm guessing so. I'm not sure.
Because it's like a flying saucer or something, isn't it?
It's like a Jetsons car.
Okay.
I think is what it's like.
Future Car.
Yeah, it's Future Car. He wants to buy this, but we learn from voiceover that his mother didn't want him to buy it because he's too grown up to be wanting little kids' toys. Yeah. So he ended up buying a watch for his mother instead. Yeah. He tries to do the mature thing.
Yeah.
He buys a watch, and then the watch, as he's carrying the watch back home, he drops it and he gets run over by a car.
Yes.
He gets home. He gets in a screaming match with his mother about how he's irresponsible.
Yep. She's thrown out his
marbles.
Yep.
And I think he had like pranks and stuff too that he threw out. Am I imagining that?
It's just he has a
junk drawer.
He has a junk drawer, and his mum's gone through it and tossed out a lot of his stuff.
Yeah, and they end up in a total screaming match. And he runs away. He says, "I never want to speak to you again." She is holding a kitchen knife, and it's drawn in a way that it's like she's kind of pointing it at him, but she's not actually. It's just drawn from Umezz's weird angles. He runs off. He goes to school, which is Yamato Elementary. He was playing with this little kid named Yu there. Yu's a 3-year-old who doesn't go to the school, but he just hangs around on this tricycle outside. And
you're not going to be able to sustain this level of detail for the entire.
No. I'm about to stop.
Pages.
I'm about to stop because I can't. So the point I'm kind of trying to get to here is the screaming match happens with the mother, and that is the level of intensity that is maintained for 2,250 pages. Is every word balloon is a burst shape, it's a screaming burst, and people are constantly running. They're panicked, they're screaming, it's constantly intense, they're constantly in crisis mode.
Yes.
He draws tears. It's not just trickles of tears, he draws these weird... tears don't come out of tear ducts, they gush out of people's eyes in these weird, like... Not like waterfalls, but they're like their faces are covered. With completely from the bottom of their eyes.
Like a river, a gushing river of tears,
and people are running non-stop, running, and when they run, their feet are always 6 feet apart, and it's really full-on intense all the time. Now, this is even before. There's a scene when he gets to school. He's going to be late for school. He's forgotten his lunch at home, and he meets his other friend. Who's I can't remember his name, Shinichi or something. And Shinichi's like, I'm going to run home and get my lunch. And Sho is like, no, I'm going to go to school. Forget about lunch. Or forget he has lunch money. He goes to school, and just an example, when he arrives in line, he actually trips and falls. This is a tiny detail in one panel. That it's a blink and you miss it, but it's non-stop. This book is non-stop. And the running... Umezz has this weird way of... He was already drawing in a throwback style to a style from like the 40s or 50s.
Right.
Like especially grown adult men, they look like linebackers or like really broad-shouldered and weird-looking, and they've all got weird hairdos that are super old-fashioned, like old-fashioned for 72 even.
Yeah.
But he has his drawing style is really repetitive, but it's funny the way when he draws the kids running, sometimes if there are 50 kids running at the same time, they'll all be running in sync. They'll have like left leg forward, right leg back. He just draws the same way all day, every day.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you...
It all starts to run together after a while when you're reading it, especially when you're reading it on a computer.
Yes. And so what happens is he gets to school late. So Shinichi's gone home. He's gone to school. There's a loud bang in the school, this explosion. And the school, when the kids look outside, they see that, was that an earthquake? What was that? They look outside, and everything is just a sandy wasteland.
Yep.
Just a barren, no buildings, nothing outside.
Yes. It's like a desert.
Yes.
Except
Meanwhile...
it doesn't look quite like a desert. It has some unusual undulating kind of features.
Yes.
It looks bizarre.
Yes.
It looks like a horror landscape. Like hell. It's like they've arrived in hell.
Yes. Meanwhile, there's an alternate place wherever their parents are. Where the school was is a big crater.
Yep.
So gradually the kids work out through constant screaming that the school has arrived in the future. They find the old sign that was in front of the school, and it's all rotten and old and stuff.
It takes about 100 pages, but they do eventually figure out that they're in the future, and that's what's happened. Whatever that explosion was, there's been a freak alignment of, energy and the space-time continuum, and they've been catapulted, they think, many thousands of years into the future.
Yeah.
But later on, much, much later on, it transpires that they're only 100 years in the future. Or...
Maybe?
I think, yeah.
We learn later that mankind was wiped out at the end of the 20th century and everything became deserts. But we don't know how far in the future they are.
I'm pretty sure they're not that far because they find a survivor. Remember where there's a blink? It's like one page.
Look,
and he's been eating human corpses.
There's a lot of stuff here we'll get to.
But also there's a new human.
Yes.
They're the inheritors of the earth.
Yeah.
So like mutants.
Yes. But how long does this is okay? We're gonna.
But the first mutant appears in it.
Yes, that's
contemporaneously with baseline human beings.
1,500 pages later. We'll get to that. I just want to introduce some more.
We have to jump around. You can't talk about this book in order.
I think maybe a little bit. Okay, so there's this girl Sakiko. She's kind of the main female character in the book. Yu has been transported. The cute 3-year-old with the tricycle has been transported because he's hanging around on school grounds.
All he does is ride around on his tricycle.
Yes.
You. So you mentioned that we see. You're right. So back in the past, Sho's mother is frantic.
Yeah.
Because they've said goodbye in anger. As he left, she told him, "I hope you never come home."
Yeah.
He says, "I'm never coming back to this place." She says, "I hope you never come home." Off he goes, and of course, it's just eating away at her because because she thinks he's dead, and he is dead for all intents and purposes because he's gone into the future. But she never gives up.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's going to be some timey-wimey stuff.
Yes.
Because she receives messages from Shu.
Yes. Yeah.
Through a very wonky mechanism.
Yes, we'll get to that. Because that's a bit later.
Right, sorry, I'll let you talk about it.
He communicates with his mother about 3 times.
Yes.
Once per volume.
When Umezz couldn't figure out how to get out of a situation that he'd got Shu into. Oh, it absolutely is.
Yes, but... Okay, we'll talk about this a little bit. Yeah, because...
So it's very Bill and Ted. So
yes,
do you remember Bill and Ted?
Absolutely. We're not there yet. We're still establishing that they've arrived in the future.
Right. So you've reviewed this book before. I'll let you lead.
They've arrived in the future. Absolute panic because it's just a desert wasteland. There's like, where's a family? I want to see my mom and dad. All the kids are screaming, running all the time. But
it's hundreds of kids and a handful of adults.
Yes, the teachers that were there.
Yeah.
Now, another thing I want to point out about the art is like. Okay, there's a scene where when they first arrive, Sho's like, I'm going to go phone my mother. So he's going to run to the room with the telephone in it. And he runs to the room and he calls his mother. Now, normally an artist would draw this in like 1 panel. Run out, or 2 panels, run out, arrive in the room. He draws like a page of him running through halls at top speed, desperately, hysterically getting to the phone. It's like this all the time. Everything is amped up. There's tons of close-ups of people's faces panicking.
Everyone's always screaming or panicked, shocked, surprised, mouth agape, eyes staring, over and over and over and over.
Now, here's the other thing that we're getting to that starts happening immediately. This is a comic where children kill other children or are killed by children and adults.
Yeah, it's very Lord of the Flies.
It makes Lord of the Flies look like Sound of Music, as I said 5 years ago. Because immediately, like, this girl is like, I want to see my parents, and she climbs over the fence and falls to her death.
Yes.
Right? This is a child. And then one of the teachers has lost it and crushes his eyeglasses in his hand and stabs a kid that he's holding in the arm. And the kid is freaking out, of course. They get the kid away, and then we learn 2 pages later that this kid was actually that teacher's son.
Yeah, so he threatened to murder his own son. He figured this is how he decided to calm down the children.
Yes. He said, stop crying! So he stabbed him in the arm to make him stop crying.
Well, in the translation I read, he uses it to calm down the kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So he says that you're all going to get stabbed with my eyeglasses just like this kid.
That's right.
If you don't calm down.
That's right, including his own son who he wants to shut up.
Well, it's his son that he stabs.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
He uses his own son as the example.
Yes. Yes.
Meanwhile, wow, this isn't your dad's Lord of the Flies.
No.
This is
But this is the beginning.
Yeah.
This is how it starts.
We haven't even had any mutants.
Meanwhile, there's been a burglary at the school. Some burglars are coming in, robbed the payroll. The principal comes in. He's freaking out. Now, what we're starting to get immediately is the teachers, the adults who are supposed to be the voice of reason and the place of safety for all these kids, are losing it.
Yeah. Well, the principal doesn't even know that they've been transported to this wasteland.
No, he's just worried about this robbed payroll because the burglars escaped.
He was knocked out by the burglars, and he comes out and he says it's a moment of humour, I suppose, because he comes out and says to these teachers who have discovered that they're responsible for hundreds of children in a nightmarish future wasteland, something terrible's happened. We've been robbed.
Yes.
And they just react with incredulity, and they say, that doesn't really matter right now. He's like, I'm so sorry. All your paychecks are gone. How can I face you? How can I face my superiors and my family? And they're like, go and look out the window.
Yes. Yes.
And he doesn't. He does not cope.
Yes. I
think he kills himself, doesn't he, the principal?
I don't remember. Some teachers do start killing themselves. Sakiko's brother ends up running out into the wasteland, and then he turns to, like, bones. Like, he dies. He, like, withers up and dies.
Well,
they
he just
think
falls
it's radiation.
Down and doesn't get up. Why does he do that? No one else.
We don't know. It's never explained.
Yeah.
That's a plot line that's forgotten, that it might be radioactive out there. That's not explained. Meanwhile, after Sho calls his mother, you can't get through. And one of the teachers, whose name was Wakahara,
yes,
he says, look, you need to lie to those kids and say you got through your mother. We need to keep everyone calm.
Yep.
This is kind of a key point, because Wakahara, he starts to lose it.
Yep.
He's like, okay, you guys need to tie me up. He seems to know that he's going to snap. He sees the other teacher snapping, and he's been the most reasonable. He's been like, okay, you need to keep those kids calm.
He seems to be the guy that's kept it together.
He's like the Yeah.
And he's another one of these huge linebacker dudes.
That's right. He's like, you need to tie me up right now. Like, he knows something's going to go wrong, and they don't tie him up, and he snaps. He becomes a serial killer. And he says, come on, kids, we're going to go look for supplies out in the wasteland. Let's get in my car. And he drives them out there to kill the kids. In fact, one of the kids, he drives back and forth over multiple times
so nuts.
in order to murder this child.
And before any of this has happened as well, the lunchroom man has gone on a rampage.
Oh, yes, sorry, yes.
No, there's no sorry. I don't think we can tell this in sequence.
Okay, so before this happens, they have a certain amount of food, but Sekia, the lunchroom man, has gone crazy and has decided he's going to hoard all the food for himself.
This is a guy that all the kids love. All the kids love Sekia, the lunchroom man.
But they call him the lunchroom man, which he finds offensive.
But now it's revealed that he's like a bit
you got no respect for me.
downtrodden man. He's the villain of the piece, really.
Yes.
Because
That's right. He's the recurring villain that comes back every once in a while. Sekia will show up to cause trouble.
Yeah.
So he holds some kids hostage. He sets the lunchroom on fire.
No, what he does
set
is
him on fire?
close enough. What happens is he says he's going to keep all the food.
Yes.
He has decided there's been a war, and the Americans are going to come and save him.
Yes.
He's going to still be alive when the Americans come, so he needs to keep all the food for himself. So he takes some kids like prisoner at knife point.
Yeah.
And when the other teachers try to get him out of the lunchroom, he grabs some cooking oil, pours it under the door.
That's right.
Lights it on fire, and it burns up the teachers.
Yes, he sets the teachers on fire. They die. They die in flames. Meanwhile, a kid has
found a gun.
I found a gun on the ground. This isn't explained until 2,000 pages later.
Oh my! I missed the explanation.
Well, it's because it's not explicit. But remember, the burglars were in the school.
I just got it. Yeah. Where did the burglar get? It's really, really hard to get a handgun in Japan.
Oh yeah, Well, why? We don't know for 2,000 pages why was a brand new gun. By the way, this isn't a 2,000-year-old gun. It's a brand new gun that's lying on the floor of the school.
It's come with the school.
And they're like, what?
Right. It was from the burglars.
It's like, why is there a gun on the floor? By the way, so a kid tries to shoot Sekia, ends up killing another kid by accident with this gun.
Then he gets killed. And then Sekia gets the gun.
Yes.
It's just bad. It goes from bad to worse to nightmarish.
Yes.
Over and over and over.
Well, as I was...
Luckily the school has an inexhaustible supply of kids to get killed. Because kids are getting killed.
Well, there isn't a kind of attrition that happens where you notice the numbers getting smaller. It kind of starts to peter out.
There always seems to be more, though, right up until the very end.
Yes.
There's the... Yeah. There's bubonic plague.
Yes, we get the bubonic plague. And the other thing about this is, it's not... as I was talking about this with Ryan 5 years ago, his issue with the book was there are no peaks and valleys. There's only peaks. There are no valleys. Like, they go out on... There are some crises that go out to desert, they come back. There's no downtime. They come back and, everybody's being eaten by these mini bugs that are eating people like termites in a Looney Tunes cartoon. They just swarm over them and then bones are left behind. And it's like, there's this crisis, then this one, and there's never any...
Right. They'll go out... You're right, it happens over and over. They'll leave the school to face some kind of horrific crisis, and then they'll get back, and there'll be an even worse crisis waiting for them.
Yes.
It never ends.
There was one crisis where I was like, what is this? This is a bit, like, weak compared to the other ones, which is, there's a kid who can't stop eating. Even after he's eaten, he's still hungry. But it actually ends up tying into... another plot line, which is that they go out in the desert and they find this giant bug monster.
Well, they find a forest, and it's like it's a nightmare forest of horrific twisted plants.
Yes.
And yet the plants are all sand, but there's a giant centipede monster that's eating the plants, and then the giant centipede monster eats them.
Yes.
And this is all connected to the kid that can't stop eating, because it turns out he is creating...
He imagined this monster like when he was in grade 3.
Oh yeah, it's not even right
He
then.
drew a picture of it,
It's
and
coming
for some
from his...
reason, it has come to life.
It's like Prospero in The Tempest or something.
So he has some sort of psychic ability, which is they never say that out loud.
And he's the only... This isn't a feature of... Why is this happening? Why is this happening?
Not only that, you can avoid being eaten by the monster if you are unconscious or can clear your mind. It will ignore you. Why is that a feature of this monster that he invented
that's been
in his head?
conjured from his unconscious? It also eats food. Like, it can find food. Food's not aware. None of it makes sense.
No. And then when they finally snap him out of it and convince him to... I can't remember how they make him stop imagining the thing. they all turn to sand, but the food that it had eaten just falls out.
Sho pretends to stab him. That's how he
right.
snaps him up.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
It looks like he stabbed him.
Yes.
It looks like Sho's straight up murdered a kid.
Yes.
Sho the goody.
Yes.
So Sho is a delinquent.
Yes.
This is a standard character in Japanese kind of like high school.
Well, he's not really delinquent. He's a kid that is trying to be a kid. He's on the cusp of being a preteen, right? We're talking about our main character Sho. The real delinquents do show up. There are these three girls that show up. One's called the Queen or the Princess, and they are straight out of 70s Japanese delinquent girl movies.
Right.
Those bad girl movies. There was like 100 of them because I think Toei or Toho had a deal where they had to an exclusive deal with cinemas where they had to produce a movie every 2 weeks.
What?
So they were pumping these out, right? These delinquent girl movies and various other movies, and we'll be talking about some of them over the course of the podcast.
Brilliant.
So those three girls show up, and they're like, obviously, these girls are really nasty. They like strip one boy naked and then stamp on his crotch.
Then she breaks some other kid's fingers.
Yes. Yeah. It's just
everything happens.
So anyway, sorry, you were saying about Sho being sort of a...
Well, sort of. And if his arc, I suppose, is that he has to figure out how to be... He was trying to be good.
A mature leader, yeah.
He was even trying to be good, even in the prologue.
Yeah, he bought that watch for his mother instead of buying the future car.
Yeah, and his mum bought him the future car, it turns out. So they both care for him one another. Right. Yeah, and she hid it in his bag, and he threw it away into a rubbish heap because he didn't know what it was or what it was doing in there. And it's quite... because it doesn't pay off because the comic swiftly degenerates into non-stop peaks, to non-stop mania. But it's quite... I found this prologue quite poignant to read because they just weren't communicating.
Yes, but it does come back every time he communicates with his mother psychically. We do...
Good point.
Get their relationship. And also I do think it's really ironic, this future car, because they end up in the future and it's not the future that this car, any kind of future this car would have come from.
Whatever this emotional content or this subtle emotional content of the prologue is soon lost, really, because with the insane monsters and craziness that occurs over the next 2,000 pages. But it is, I found it quite moving.
I think that's actually more.
And then they say goodbye. And they never say goodbye. They leave. They say the last time they see one another, they're angry at one another, and yet they do love one another because they've each bought these presents. And then he's gone forever because he's died in an explosion / gone to the future.
It's interesting because tonally, I mean, Umezz's other stuff, a lot of it is about like evil stepmother kind of stuff. It's usually a young girl whose mother or stepmother is super cruel and evil. And then all these horrors happen around that. Here we've got a bit of an inversion of that, where the mother actually does love the son, and the son loves the mother.
Yeah. And so across the course of the story, he, I suppose, builds on that part of himself and he ends up leading the school because all the teachers die. Yeah. All the adults are gone except for lunchroom man Sekiya and he's evil.
Yes.
Because they either die in that cooking oil fire, kill themselves, or the linebacker teacher murders them.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So, when he drives them out, and he's driving over those kids, he's running them over, Sho manages to run away with this girl named Nishi, who has a limp. She walks on a crutch.
Right.
And they run into a tunnel, into a cave. And they go through this tunnel in the cave, or the cave itself, and they emerge and in a place which is a window on like the 30th floor of a high-rise hotel, which is like it's like a wasteland hotel. How did they go down into a cave
30th floor?
And end up on the 30th floor of some building?
So weird.
Doesn't make sense.
Nope.
But at that moment, Wakahara catches up with them. Nishi is passed out, and Sho's about to die, but he calls for his mother, mother.
Yeah, you're right.
And now we get this kind of dramatic sequence, shocking sequence, because we've been stuck in this future time. We go back to the present, and we see Sho's mother, and she can hear him. Yeah. They've got some sort of psychic link.
Well, what happens, it very definitely is a psychic link.
Yes.
That's the way it's done in the film. But for some reason, Umezz always has it coming through technology.
Yes, so come through the TV.
There are sort of multiple stops from Sho to his mother. So first of all, Nishi is always with him.
When Nishi is unconscious, she's able to channel
This is some power of Nishi's that, mind you, only works when she's unconscious.
Yeah.
So Nishi has to be there. She has to be unconscious. Sho has to be reaching out to his mother. His mother then has to be on the phone, on the television, or on a walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
And she will then receive a message on this technology in the 20th century that's being relayed by an unconscious psychic girl from Sho while he's in some kind of life-threatening peril.
Yes.
It's not quite the Aesop about communication.
No. By the way, her being psychic is not a result of radiation or anything. It's just she's just psychic. I think we mentioned this before.
Just like the
Sometimes in Japanese fiction, people are just psychic. They're just like they're left-handed.
The boy that couldn't stop eating was psychic.
That's right. Exactly.
It has nothing to do with being in.
It's not a radiation
future.
mutation or anything. No, it's just they just are.
So would he have conjured a psychic centipede in the 20s? Who knows?
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Good point. Great point. So so Sho says, I'm in the KO hotel or whatever.
Yeah.
And
in room 700.
And Mom hears that and she's like, okay, I'm going to plant a knife in the wall. But there's a long sequence to get there because they throw her out of the hotel.
Sequence.
The husband's like, what's the matter with you?
She goes back in disguise with a drill. She recruits
Shinichi, the friend.
Who didn't end up going to the future because he went home to get his lunch.
That's right.
He covers for her while she drills holes in the wall of the hotel so that the manager won't come and catch her doing it.
Yeah.
She then hides Sho's knife in the wall, covers it back up, so that he will find it. It's very Bill and Ted, remember?
Yeah, 100%.
So that he will find it right at the moment.
This is a good point to make when we talk about the movie. This is a Bill and Ted... It's just like... Imagine you leave a paper on your desk today, you come back tomorrow, that paper's on your desk. That's how this is working. Except we have a message from the future that's like, please leave this knife in the wall.
This isn't even the most ridiculous, because later on, she hides medicine for bubonic plague.
Let's go deep on this one. I love this. I love this sequence, because the chain of events. The kids are running away from some crisis, don't remember what it was this time. They go into a tunnel. They find it's an old hospital. Oh, they've got the bubonic plague.
Yeah.
Was this before they? Okay, I can't remember if they had the plague already or not. But they
don't have it yet.
They walk into a place and they find a corpse on the floor of this room. A corpse all alone in the middle of the floor of this room. They're like, "Whoa, it's a mummy!" And then it starts to get up.
It sits up.
And then, whoa! And then we get the next chapter. It's like, okay, the oxygen came into the room and it caused the muscles to contract.
There's a brainiac.
Yes, Gammo, I think his name is. He's the nerdy brainiac.
And he explains that the corpse could have sat up because of atmospheric changes.
That's right.
It hadn't been that room hadn't been disturbed for however long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't look like a mummy.
No.
It looks like a mannequin or a...
Yeah. But it's a scary corpse, and the kids are like, holy shit, and they freak out. Now, at some stage before or after the kids get bubonic plague, including Sho.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, well, they're about to die. They need this medicine, which obviously they can't get because there's nothing. It's a wasteland.
Yep.
I think they even look around the hospital hoping, and
they do.
They can't find it.
They find bottles of medicine, but as soon as they pick them up, they crumble into dust.
That's right. So this is a time where Nishi's passed out. Sho begs his mother. Okay, back in the present. He's like, oh, but this corpse has like a scar on one arm.
Yep.
And Sho says to his mother, can you put the medicine inside this corpse? There's a corpse with this scar on the arm.
Inside the corpse of the guy with the scar on his arm.
All right, so she has to find this corpse. She goes to the hospital. She looks through the morgue.
She goes in the morgue. Yeah.
His body's just piled up on the floor.
Higgledy-piggledy.
Yes. She can't find the person with the arm. But as she's leaving, she sees this man, a living man, with the scar on his arm. She's like, that's the guy. So she follows him out. And Shinichi is there, and she's like, hey, that's that famous baseball player. She's like, that guy's a baseball player?
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, so they go to a baseball game so she can watch this guy.
They go to a baseball game.
She's like, I gotta get this medicine. She's trying to get medicine. She's getting thrown out of every pharmacy she goes into. One of them punches her in the face. One of the pharmacists is like, get out of here, lady. Pow!
Well, there's a scare on because for some reason they're talking about bubonic plague in the past too.
Well, it's not for some reason. There's a connection.
I know.
Yes. But some rats have escaped or some
squirrels
have escaped and they have bubonic plague. So they're like, well, where are these squirrels? We gotta find them. Anyway, so now the pharmacists aren't giving away this medicine to anybody that just walks in on the street, and they'll punch you in the face if you do. So she goes to this baseball game. She sees the player. She actually runs out onto the field and stops him from sliding into home base. The fans, there's a riot. There's a riot in the stadium. And
It's in this comic about...
and they pile onto her there, and she, my favorite line in the whole series, she says, "Are you okay?" And she says, "I'm okay, I can take a beating." And then, so the other thing that happens is, as he's at bat, he actually gets beamed in the head with a baseball.
Yeah.
And he actually moves his head so that he gets beamed in the forehead with a baseball.
Yeah.
It's like, what? It's a really weird drawing that's upsetting. And
it turns out he has a death wish because he's not in his prime anymore.
that's right, and he's supposed to be a hero to kids, and he can't be a hero to his kids anymore. And he wants his career to be over.
This has been going on for roughly 200 pages.
Yeah, and you think this guy, you thought the ball in the head was what's going to kill him, but he's actually okay. And meanwhile, Mom, in order to get in the hospital to see him, cuts herself with this huge gash in her arm. It goes like halfway down, like down to the bone. She cuts herself so that she'll be taken to the hospital. I think she got thrown out of the hospital once already.
Yeah.
Okay, so she goes there. Then this baby snatcher is in the hospital, steals a baby, and is running away, and the baseball player sees him, and the baseball player jumps out and attacks guy, saves a baby, which is what he wanted to be a hero to kids, and he saves this baby, but he's stabbed by the baby snatcher, and he dies. That's how he dies. Mom gets the medicine into the body. In the future, Sho opens up the body and finds the medicine. They're cured of bubonic plague. Here's my question. Why is there only one corpse? The one corpse of one baseball player, and where are the other corpses? Why was only one mummified? After all these years, it just doesn't.
That's your question.
Yeah, that's my question. It's like they're going into the cave and arriving on the 30th floor.
Everything else about that narrative made sense.
It's weird. It's a weird. Her passion to save her son is really good. Like, it's one of the great things in the series. It's like the emotional core.
She never gives up.
In a lot. She never gives
like
up.
A crazy person.
And his whole arc that he has in this weird 200-page sequence of like, I've failed these kids. My career is flagging. All that kind of stuff is pretty amazing. I need to go out on
a win.
Yeah.
It's so wild that in this book about a desert full of monsters, we get a 350 to 400 page digression about a baseball player.
Yeah.
And his waning powers and his need to go out a hero.
Yeah.
Plus, combined with the story of a woman that really needs to cut his body open and put medicine in it.
Yes. At some stage, they come back to the school. I don't remember which return it was. And a kid is being crucified in front and being set on fire and being stabbed with spears all at the same time.
This is really early on. That's when they. This is really. Some teachers I think are still alive at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's always something like this going on.
And first graders decide they really want to go home, so they decide to fly off the roof. These are first graders that jump to their deaths, and he doesn't cut away. We see the bodies hit the ground, and we see Sho cradling these 6-year-olds. Finally, they decide to have an election between the Queen and Sho.
Yeah.
The Queen loses the election, so she leaves the school. She walks out into the desert with her mean girl friends after they lose. The attack happens. So Sho organizes government. And it's real kid logic kind of stuff. Like, okay, the PE kids will be the defense forces. Yeah. Or like the smart kids will be in charge of
science and
science or what? Yeah, that kind of stuff. They're all divided up in a kind of the way kids would, I guess, the way they think about the world on the playground. That's when the centipede monster attacks. Ikegaki, who was a kid, was in charge. His arm actually gets ripped off. Yep. At one point, there's a mudslide that happens too when there's finally rain. This one was crazy too because Sakiko decides she's going to hold her body up against the front gate of the school to stop the mudslide. Oh, yeah. And then all the other girls do that too. And they're literally getting decapitated.
A head flies off.
Head flies off.
I had to go back and read that page again.
Yeah.
So why is the head...
Heads and arms are flying off because of this mudslide that's happening.
Yeah, why does that mudslide happen? Because they've planted all their plants. They're trying to grow plants to sustain themselves. Some weird mushrooms grow. This book, it's just never-ending events.
Oh my god, Hashimoto's liver. I wrote this down. One kid they have to operate on.
That's his appendix, isn't it?
No, that's later. One kid has to have his liver removed or something. Remember this? There was a huge operation where they pull all the guts out of this. One of the kids... Am I confusing two sequences? Maybe I am.
They do have to remove Sho's appendix at one point.
That's right. And there's one kid whose dad is a doctor, and he had vague aspirations of being a doctor, so they're like, well, you have to operate.
Yeah.
Maybe I am thinking that because they pull out like a big chunk of guts before they put. Maybe I'm confused about.
There's
something.
no way he survived this.
Yes.
There's no way 12-year-olds are removing one another's
Okay.
appendix.
So yeah. No, and then he goes through more adventures after that. He's still running nonstop after this.
Well, he gets straight up
Every
afterwards,
time.
and he's
straight up nonstop running and screaming, even after this operation.
So
done by kids with a whiskey bottle.
we can't. At some point, we're going to have to call time and talk about the film. But I mean, we could try and list as many. Everything you could imagine happens in these books.
Oh, well, the next thing I want to talk about is the mushrooms.
Okay.
So they start growing some plants. They're trying to grow food. But then these weird mushrooms are growing on the plants.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what are these? Let's eat them and find out.
Well, they
And
don't want to eat them.
They don't
because
want
they're worried about them because they look horrible.
Joe is always like,
Mind
don't
you,
eat
these,
them.
these
and other
mushrooms
people are
grow,
like desperate to eat.
These mushrooms grow once and never again.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. You know, because they not only grow in the soil, they start growing on the food that's nowhere near the soil.
Yeah.
So there's just a wave of mushrooms. This comic is just nothing but waves.
Yes.
There's a wave of...
Yes.
So now we're dealing with the wave of mushrooms. And these mushrooms are really freaky.
Yeah.
They do not look good for you. And they know they're not good for you.
Yeah.
So they think, we're going to have to feed them to somebody as a test to find out whether or not they're good to
Yes.
eat. And they decide to feed them to...
Second who has lost his mind and is now at a baby stage. He's got
Yes.
his baby mind. And even you, the little kid, is pushing him around on his tricycle at this stage.
He's regressed to infancy.
Yes, he has regressed. So they're going to feed it to him. But actually, when they're forcing him out the hall, he bumps his head.
And
we know
Yep.
through his panel, from his eyes, that he's actually got his mind back.
Yeah.
And he fakes eating it, but some other kid eats it, and this girl starts to mutate. So another thing that's happened is the kids have started, they need a figure to feel hope. So Sho had made a bust of his mother's head in art class, and they put that up there to worship as a goddess. But somebody sneakily swaps it out for this weird eye creature that looks like Gloop with one big eye on it. And they're like,
Yeah.
who put this here?
Yeah.
And then one of the girls,
She's started a cult.
she started a cult, and she's...
So we've got cults now.
Yeah.
We've got
but she's mutating.
lizard people cult. She's mutating, but
Because
the other
she
members
ate
of
the
the cult,
mushrooms.
the other members of the cult aren't mutating.
That's right.
They're just wearing masks. They're just buying in.
That's right.
To
That's right.
worshipping the one-eyed monster.
The one-eyed god, yes.
Instantly. So yeah, she's changing. She encourages other people to eat the mushrooms.
Yeah.
Some of them do. They start changing.
Yeah.
Then a giant, the god, it seems like,
Yeah.
a giant one-eyed monster shows up. This monster shows up once and never again.
Yes. Yes. But there are more of them, but...
And drags them away.
Yes, that's right.
And then...
Drags the cultists away, or the ones who've eaten the mushrooms away. Now, Sekia he's gotten his mind back, he forces the kids to dig a well.
Yeah.
They dig a well, and when they're stuck down there had been a earthquake which opened a fissure,
Yeah.
and it opens a crack, and they go in and they find themselves in the old subway stations.
Yeah.
And they go.
And there are
deep in
trains
here.
running.
There are trains running. They're like, why are there trains running? They don't know. But they find a room with a group of these bug monsters that have one giant eye on their back.
Yeah.
And they find the kids that had left the school are in J-horror mode, and they're walking
Yeah.
around on all fours with their
Yeah.
hair hanging down in front.
Yeah.
And they've got, the leader has this eye that's growing on her back,
Yep.
like them. So they are mutating into them because
They've eaten the
the mushrooms. Now, we learn, because these monsters decide to watch a video. They decided to ape
They
human
put on a video.
human means. They speak human language, and they're running the trains like the humans used to.
They do this. It's a ritual.
Yes.
They do this once every year or something.
Okay.
And the kids have just happened to stumble into it right at exactly the right time. This is the one time a year when they speak Japanese.
Okay.
They make the trains run and they watch the video, so they never forget
Right.
where they came from.
Yes.
And this is where we find out that it's probably not actually that far into the future. It's probably only about 100, 150 years. Because what happened is, it seems that there was a cure for cancer, and the cure for cancer turned people into mutants.
What? I missed that bit. All I found was the bit. So the Earth, it was like environmental decay. It was
Yeah.
like people.
Oh, yeah. So
So
people-
pollution,
oh, yeah.
stuff like that, smog, all that kind
So
of
that's
stuff.
that's a familiar message. That's
Yes.
what happened to the world. Environmental collapse. Yes.
Then there's
Very
a headline
topical.
about a woman who killed her own baby.
Yeah.
And then we get video of them digging up the baby.
Yeah.
And they unwrap. It's swaddled. They
And
unwrap it. And it's a bug. It's one of those bug monsters.
So the bug monsters were already appearing, but
Yes,
and
but
there's,
you're saying that there was an earlier thing.
there's a
about,
bit where they mentioned that they cured cancer,
Okay.
and they say that curing cancer was a bad idea because it meant that the mutants appeared.
Huh. Okay. It's one of those things you miss in this book. Okay.
So, it doesn't state it explicitly, but it seems like... They say something about inferior genes or something like that. But it seems like there's a causal link between this cure for cancer and the appearance of the mutants.
Okay.
And so these mutants, this isn't millions of years in the future. This isn't like Morlocks and Eloy. This has happened while baseline humans are still wandering around. So and they've been better suited for this new world than they run around. They drink blood, kind of like Martians. They jump on. There are these starfish monsters.
Okay, so here's my question: much like the mummy of the baseball player being all by itself, or the cave that went up to the 30th floor, why does eating the mushrooms turn you into one of these mutants?
Well, why not?
Which were born naturally.
Why not?
What's the link?
There's
no link. That's right.
And why do these mushrooms never reappear? Why do they not grow on their food again, tomorrow?
Yeah.
Because it's just one damn thing after another.
Yeah, well, so as they're escaping this, they find some corpses. They see a living man, as you pointed out, who is eating bodies, but then is shot to death as soon as he sees them.
Well, yes. It's an amazing page.
Yes.
We just get a close-up of his face. Closer, his staring eyes, then his screaming face, then he collapses. And we see he was eating a leg. So, this guy, I mean, presumably he's presumably been around just since the end of the world.
Yeah.
Eating bodies.
Yeah.
So, the end of the world, it can't really have been that long ago.
No, you're right.
I mean, he's an old man.
You're right.
But yeah, I'm right. But also, Umezz just threw in a cannibal.
Yes. Yes.
Trying to come up with a timeline here, you're going to be frustrated.
Yes.
Because there's all kinds of freaky shit. There's giant starfish monsters that
when they run back to school, first they have to escape a volcano. They get back to the school. Monsters are attacking the school. The school has been fortified. And when they arrive, is that an earlier sequence or this sequence?
Because Sekia, no, this is when they arrive back. And because Sekia he's eating all the food. He's appointed himself like a general.
Right, that's right.
There's already been an enormous war between the two factions in the bubonic plague. The Scarface kid and another kid. But, there's still enough kids for Sekia to train an army who he sends out to fight now the starfish monsters show up. So he sends the kids out to fight the starship monsters. They all get eaten by the starfish monsters. He drives off in his van.
Yes.
With all the food.
Yes. And we never see him again.
No, he comes back at the very end.
Oh, he does. That's right.
Yep.
Sorry. Yes.
So I really wish I had made a list of every fucked up thing.
Well, I've got most of them. Because the starfish monsters attack, and there's a war between the monsters, and I think that they basically, and then a giant monster appears and eats all the other monsters, and then wiggles away, and that's kind of the end. It's very much like a dune sandworm.
Yes, it is like a sandworm. Ding ding. Yeah, it's like a sandworm. It appears, it summons everything into it.
Yeah, they kind of just turn it. They just go to their deaths. All the other monsters.
The mutants, the intelligent mutants that speak they speak Japanese. They can pass on their memories to They have some sort of genetic memory.
Yes.
Whatever. But they are helpless before this dune sandworm, which shows up, and they all just march happily into its mouth. Have you read Hot House by Brian Aldiss?
No.
There's a thing called the Black Mouth in that.
Okay.
And it sings a song and everything just jumps in. So it's like a pitcher plant.
Right.
So this thing's like a pitcher plant. The supposedly intelligent mutants just all line up to be eaten by it, and then it vanishes.
Yeah. So,
and then it's time for the next thing.
Well, the next thing is that
the princess shows up again.
Yes, the princess shows up and she says she had been to some place called Paradise, and then she dies. So she's been gone for 700-800 pages. She's ruined by the wasteland. Now, there's been this other recurring character called Otomo. He was friends with Sho. Yep. They used to play together when they were kids. But he's become the key rival. He's been questioning his decisions all along. But now he's like, all right, two factions. We're going to that building. You're going to this building. This is it.
They don't have time for this. But
now we get to Lord of the Flies, where the kids are fighting each other.
Yep.
Full on. It's not adults. It's not monsters. It's kids versus kids. This is when Sho gets appendicitis. They can't let the other faction know because they'll attack if their leader is down.
They go out. They steal plants from the other faction's gardens.
Yes, because they need to heal them with some plants that are in that garden. They
need to staunch the bleeding.
Meanwhile, there's this toxic smog that's encroaching, and they're like, we got to get away from this.
The toxic smog.
They run away, and they got to get to Paradise. This Paradise that the Queen talked about. Yep. And they Can't remember how they find it, but it's an old theme park called Fujiland Paradise.
Well, it's a new theme park because it's been made after their time. Because it has robots.
It has a killer Marilyn Monroe robot. It's the first thing they see when they get in there. There's a Marilyn Monroe robot with huge breasts, and it keeps saying, "Welcome to Fujiland."
Yep.
Welcome to Fujiland. And one of the kids, for some reason, decides he needs to touch one of the breasts.
And it rips off.
And it sloughs off, like the flesh just sloughs off. And then she's like half... This was 74, so it's a year after Westworld was released.
It's very
Japan.
Westworld. Yeah.
And so
Then
for some reason she starts programming like the robot dinosaurs to attack the kids.
Why would she do that?
Why? But anyway, she's running around with half skin on like Terminator.
Yep.
Pretty freaky, weird thing.
It's so at this point I was really like I thought I was going mad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bizarre.
What's powering
shift.
these things?
Don't know. There's a generator.
Yeah.
There's a generator.
I suppose it hasn't been that long. And it's future tech, I guess.
But Otomo's faction has arrived there before this faction, and they've found like these vending machines with candy, and they're
you
like,
can't
these
get
are
into
ours.
them. Those vending machines are going to live in my nightmares because they had all this food in these vending machines and they couldn't get into them.
Yes.
So then they start eating one another.
Well, it's Otomo's faction. They kill a kid, and Otomo forces another kid to. I think this is his rock bottom. I think this is supposed to be as low as it gets. We haven't had kids eating kids before.
There actually hasn't been a lot of
It's been a line that has not been crossed as far as kids go. And this time Otomo's faction is like, we're going to eat this kid. He's going to force this other child to eat that child that they're roasting. Sho has witnessed it, and he goes back and he says they're roasting a pig. They found a pig and they're roasting
it wasn't a pig. It was
But finally, somehow... they have a huge fist fight.
Yeah.
I think, as I recall, Sho and Otomo, is that what happens, or am I confusing that with the movie?
I think it might be the movie.
Okay.
They're always funny.
But they make up somehow, and they shake hands, despite the cannibalism.
What happens is, in Fujiland, they find this thing, the Great Computer.
Yes, that's right.
It's like the Great C from the Dies Irae, the Zelazny Philip K. Dick book. The computer that can answer any question.
Right.
So they ask it, it's like some sort of novelty device there to answer your questions, but the kids ask it, how did we come to the future? And the computer says, well, I don't know for sure, but it might have been this kind of rift.
Yeah.
And this kind of rift is caused by usually an explosion.
Yes.
And they say, well, how can we get back? And it says, well, wherever was the initial transition, the dimensions are weak there.
Yeah.
So if you can cause another explosion, that might cause you to go back, and then it breaks.
Yes.
And that's the end. So they go back. Meanwhile, for a long time in the book, for probably the last 800 to 900 pages, people have been accusing Sho of causing the event that led them to go to the future.
Yeah. Somebody claims to have seen him planting dynamite in the school.
And then, spoilers, it was actually Otomo, his rival.
Yes.
But
first he admits to it. First Sho says, yeah, I did it, in order to get the kids to chase him back to the school.
That's right. That's how
he wants to go back to the ground zero.
So he can take them home. So he admits to doing it, so they'll chase him to try and beat him to death. And then when he gets back, he says, well, I lied.
Yeah. And then Otomo finally reveals that it was him that did it.
And what's more, he still has some of the dynamite.
He still has some dynamite.
He's kept it all this time. Why didn't he use this dynamite to kill the giant centipede? Or the mutants?
Well, because then he would have admitted that was him that caused them to get there in the first place. So now the kids have to lie in a circle. They have to get Nishi to be knocked out or unconscious so that she can be the conduit. They try it once and it sends the tricycle back.
It sends used tricycle back.
But the kids thought they were going to go back in time. They don't go back in time. Meanwhile, back in the past, one of the burglars is there, but his arm and half of his face is missing.
He's been in hospital for the past few months. The doctors don't know what to make of him because...
And they don't know that he's missing half a face somehow. He pulls off the towel off his head. He says, look at my face. And the doctor's like, what?
Whoa!
You didn't notice this before?
Maybe this was a doctor that was not familiar with his case. Whatever. So he says that... He says, I can feel my arm. My arm's lying in some sand.
Yeah.
And the doctor's like, well, that's just phantom pain. He's like, it is not phantom pain because I can see some shit.
Yeah.
And then he pulls off the towel. He's missing half his face. So... presumably his arm and half his face are in the future, just lying on a sand dune. And he says, I can see a girl walking towards me. And then we come back to the future. And
they absolutely are, because Seki attacks the school.
The best thing ever happens.
Yes.
This is by far my favourite thing.
Yes.
in the book.
Yes.
Sekia first of all doesn't want them to send anyone back because he wants everyone to be trapped with him because he's a bitter, evil person. Then when he sees that Yu's tricycle gets sent back and they decide to send Yu back, there's been some rain, some flowers are growing, they decide they're going to stay and make the best of it in the new world.
Yeah.
But there's probably enough juice to send one person, Yu, back. Yu doesn't want to stay. He's 3 years old, he wants his mum. Okay, so Yu goes in the centre, he's about to be sent back. Sekia, this is the last time we see Sekia. You know, he's come out, he's starving like the rest of them, but he says, no, it's not going to be that damn kid. I'm going to be the one that goes back. And he's a threat because he's a grown man and these are starving children. Then the best thing ever happens. Sakiko's backpack opens.
Yes.
And out of it comes an arm.
Yeah.
And half a face.
Half a face that are self-propelled.
Then this face and arm drag themselves towards Sekia,
Yeah.
throw themselves at him, and start clawing out his eyes.
Yes. Yes. It's madness. How does a face move itself?
I don't know, but it's so great. Sekia's defeated, finally.
Yes.
And the somehow you get sent back.
Yes.
He's reunited with his
and
mom.
he's got the diary that Sho has been writing
Yep.
to his mother, which is a few moments of quiet time in this 2,000 pages.
The
is
only
when
time
he's-
it's quiet is
when
when
he's
he's writing
writing,
his diary.
"Dear Mother, I miss you so much. We're trying to make things work here, but it's so difficult, etc., etc."
Yep. Somehow the arm and the face get sent back too, even though it's busy
Yes.
ripping out Sekia's throat. So the crook, the criminal, the guy that stole the paychecks and dropped the gun, presumably, his face and arm he's reunited with his face and arm
Yes.
back in the past.
And then a satellite, a rocket ship lands in the future, and inside is full of supplies.
And a note from Sho's mum.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Because she's been contacted by a scientist in the US.
at NASA. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always NASA. Who's found, I think, a note, because she's taken to throwing messages in bottles into the sea.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. He's heard about her story,
Yeah.
her claim that of what's everything that's going to happen, and he believes her and has arranged to have a satellite sent into orbit that will land. Or I can't even remember how it knows when it's
How
time
does
to
it
land.
know? Well, yeah, I was thinking about this too. How does it know when to land? What year?
It was
to land?
explained, but I've forgotten.
There's some signal.
It was waiting for something. I
Yeah.
can't even remember
Yeah.
what it was. But it lands, and they've got everything they need to survive.
Yeah.
And they're going to restart civilization with 10 people
Yes.
and a bunch
There
of...
were some confessions of love in here too. I think
Like,
somebody loved Otomo. Otomo loved Sakiko
yeah.
or
Is this-
someone.
Nah, it doesn't
it all
matter.
happens at the
Doesn't
end. It's not hugely important. Okay.
yeah. People love people. They're unrequited... Yeah, Sakiko loves Sho.
Yes.
Otomo loves Sakiko.
Yes.
Sho loves Nishi.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
If you could follow that, that's the way it goes.
We did it. Took an hour. We did it. And I think we
Alright.
covered most of the bases.
We really did.
so to speak.
We covered, so we've got blood-drinking mutants, volcanoes, Marilyn Monroe robots, giant centipedes, starfish, sandworms, bubonic plague,
Yeah.
Lord of the Flies,
Yeah.
amateur appendix removals.
Yeah. There was something about a liver in there too.
I don't remember what the liver is.
Yeah. I don't either.
But
I
just-
wrote in my notes, Hashimoto's liver.
Magic mushrooms,
Yes.
everything you could imagine is in this.
Serial killer teachers.
Serial killer
Was he a serial killer before?
Maybe he was. I don't know
Or did
what...
he just snap? He just knew he was going to kill kids if he snapped. Because he saw the other teachers snapping.
a heartwarming story of a baseballer past his prime who dies saving a baby. This book has everything.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes.
All right.
Except downtime. Not a panel. I'm telling you, there's so many close-ups of people's faces freaking out, and there's these weird little comedy bits, like when Gammo the nerd tries to get on stage, and there's like
And then he
3 panels
falls.
of him trying to get on stage.
Yeah. Have we really got time for this? Come on, we need more starfish mutants. All right, okay, let's talk about this crazy movie.
Okay, this movie came out in 1987. It's directed by Nobuhiko Obayashi.
All right, tell us about him.
Okay, well, Nobuhiko Obayashi had, in university, was making experimental films. He had started out in medicine, much like Osamu Tezuka.
Yeah, right.
And then switched. He was like, I want to go into the arts. He just wanted to make films. He was making these experimental films in university. Then he went on to direct 3,000 TV commercials. Apparently, that's the number on the Wikipedia page. I don't know if that was over a whole career. In 1977, he made his first feature film, which was House. Very famous, notoriously bizarre, weird film, which he co-wrote with his 10-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
We were very lucky to catch a screening on the big screen here in Melbourne.
In the Lido Theatre in Hawthorne.
On Halloween night.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Really crazy, nonsensical, kids' logic movie.
Yep.
Dream logic, kids' logic kind of thing about what little girls would find scary or funny. This would be a funny thing to happen, or this would be a scary thing, or this is what I don't want to happen. That kind of stuff. Happening in this crazy movie. It's very notorious for that. I guess his other movies, I haven't seen them. Apparently a lot of them are, his early movies were all kind of youth-oriented.
Right.
So I bet he was kind of like, I guess, the weird Japanese John Hughes, maybe, for a little while there, of a sort, if you know what I mean. So, in 1987, 10 years after House, this guy seems like maybe the perfect choice to direct this movie, you would think.
You would think.
Yeah. Movie opens, it's immediately very weird.
Yep.
Very weird. Like House kind of weirdness.
Yep.
It starts with Sho in the shower. He's much older in this version.
He's
got to
like
be high school.
16 or something.
Yes. But they go to international school in Kobe, as you pointed out. So it could be grades 1 to 12. Some of the kids seem really young. But there's one kid there, Mark, who claims to be an adult. Maybe 17. I don't know.
Such a weird clip, that one. Look, this film's full of nuts because this film's mostly in English.
Yes.
For starters.
Bizarre choice. Well, I think he was hoping for an international audience, maybe. I can't see any other reason to make it mostly
Nothing
in
about
English.
this movie makes
With
sense.
a bunch of actors, a lot of them are not native English speakers. Not even the Japanese actors. The teachers are like really trying to deliver their lines.
Yep.
And struggling.
Well, there's not a lot. You can't find out a lot about this movie online. But what I did manage to find out is that these people are not actors. Surprise, surprise. They're just staff and students at the international school in Kobe.
Okay, well, I know there is one actor. Well, some of the Japanese actors are actors.
Yes.
Because they've had careers. But the guy that plays my teacher, Tiger.
Yeah. That's Troy Donahue.
Yeah, he is an actor who is in a bunch of, like, B-movies. Like, B-movies you've always wanted to see but never been able to find in the video shop kind of B-movies.
Yes. Yeah, his career was in the doldrums. But this is... Troy Donahue is a famous guy.
Yeah.
Famous teen heartthrob from the 1950s.
Right.
He was in The Summer Place, with Sandra Dee. Like, he was he was like the teen heartthrob of the... Okay. Like, do you know... Did you ever watch Grease?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a line in the song "Look at Me, I'm Sandra Dee."
Yeah.
So Rizzo says, "As for you, Troy Donahue, I know what you want to do." Yeah, he was
okay,
but of course he ended up
right,
abusing alcohol and drugs, and his career fell apart. But at one point, he was very popular in Japan.
Okay, interesting. That makes
real
sense.
Blue-eyed blonde kind of
right.
And he always played good guys too.
Right.
He wasn't like James Dean.
Right.
He always played good guys. So
right.
So they've dug him out of whatever opium den he was in 1987.
Right.
And they've had him. He's their quote unquote star.
Right. Okay. So Sho has been in the shower, jumps out of the shower, dripping wet, starts hugging his mother. This kid is.
He's almost
15,
a guy.
16?
It's almost a grown man. So
he's hugging his mother.
He's
naked?
completely stark naked.
Bizarre. Totally weird. There's
America. It's because he's been Americanized.
He's been Americanized. We get a lot of talk about how they had to go to America for Dad's work. Now they're back. You got to be Japanese again.
Americans turned him into a perv.
Yes.
Because he's like grabbing his mum's breasts and singing "Camp Down Ladies."
Yes.
And it's a source of, like they say that he's going to this international school, and they're really embarrassed that he's going to this international school because his Japanese isn't good enough to go to a Japanese school.
Right.
And it brings great shame.
Yes.
They tell him he'll always be an outcast unless he can fucking learn Japanese and go to a Japanese school.
Yeah. So this is the conflict we get at the beginning between mom and show. Dad's just kind of there reading the paper.
Yep.
It's a bit like the comic, I guess, but the fight is nothing like it is. It's not the screaming match it is in the comic.
No.
It just seems like it's an ongoing thing. Well, I guess it was in the comic.
Well, he tells his mum to take your Japanese and shove it.
Shove it. And he runs out the door, and now we get the opening credits, which are all in English, for some reason again. Based on the comic by Kazuo Umezz is the credit we get here, not the manga or anything else like that.
Again, what interesting, hey?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose. I mean, manga means comic.
Yeah.
I suppose we use manga.
Yeah, we wouldn't have used manga in 87 in English, no. Music is by Joe Hisaishi, who has done all the Ghibli movies except for one, I think, and probably scores for at least 200 other movies, I believe.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I actually was kind of like, oh, this music's kind of...
It is alright.
Sentimental in that Ghibli way, and sure enough, it is Joe Hisaishi. Okay, he gets to the school. Now we meet some of the characters, including Mr. Taggart, who's in the credits called My Teacher Taggart. My Teacher Taggart.
And my teacher is in
quotes.
quotation marks.
Yes, because this is what the teacher Midori-sensei calls him. Now, Midori-sensei, I thought, was a student. She looks about 15 years old, 13, 14.
She looks younger than
She's
Sho.
apparently a teacher, yeah. She's apparently a teacher, and she seems to have some kind of crush on My Teacher Taggart.
And which is reciprocated?
Yes, and she...
Deeply unpleasant.
This actress... Clearly reading all her lines. Her lines are spelled out phonetically. She's really struggling.
She doesn't speak English.
Really struggling with these lines. My teacher. Okay, so...
But she's also engaged?
She is engaged to some guy who... There's something... Whenever he arrives in Tokyo, it rains.
But
according to her...
We see him talking to her.
Yes.
And he later shows up at... He's always standing around in later scenes and he never speaks.
He is mourning her loss at the end of the movie. He is on screen with Sho's parents.
He's always standing around.
And it's like,
why would he show up at Sho's parents' house?
I don't know. They're all grieving together for their lost family. I don't know. It's bizarre.
I forgot who he was, and it took me most of the movie to remember.
Yeah.
Because he's always standing around.
Yes.
The crater where the school used to be. And I'm like, what's that guy doing?
Who's that guy?
Is he?
That's right.
Is this going to pay off? No. He was Mr.
Midori-sensei's fiance. One of the kids overhears her on the phone talking to her fiance, runs back to school, and now we get a musical number of Here Comes the Bride. A musical number where all the kids sing Here Comes the Bride and are like clapping their hands and singing this song as they've heard this news and they announce it in class. And Taggart kind of congratulates her.
So one kid starts playing violin. Yeah,
yes,
Taggart.
A little... What... Is that a real... It was like miniature. It was like a viola
it's like
or something?
a small violin. God, it was even smaller than a viola.
Okay, suddenly there's a boom at the school. And this girl called Debbie starts floating up in the air.
It's very much like House.
And then she's sucked out the window.
Yes.
Like, what's going on here?
This sequence goes on forever.
Yeah.
It's about 10 minutes, and then there's a quiet period of about 2 minutes after it's all ended, and then it starts up again.
Yes. yes.
And it goes for another 10 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, there's
like
a lot of...
sand is pouring in through the windows.
I do have to say, to this movie's credit, there's a lot of long sequences of people just screaming.
Yep.
Pretty long.
Which is very much
a minute or 2 minutes, just people screaming incoherently, the camera shaking around.
There's some very kind of this director's style. Lots of snap zooms, lots of split-second takes.
Yep.
So we'll get like a split-second shot of a person's screaming face, and then cut to the next screaming face. Cut. Like, it's wild. Like, he's clearly, you can see his experimental background.
Yes.
From whenever he was a uni student or what have you. Like, he's still got those avant-garde roots.
Yes.
And he's absolutely shoving them in. This movie doesn't look like any movie you've ever seen.
Right. Yep. That's true.
Because he just loves an odd screen transition.
Yes.
It's good.
Yeah, this one it has like the screen goes small, like and just as if it's like a cable access TV show about wrestling or something. Just like disappears into the distance.
And wipes of every description.
Yes,
that was in House as well.
Yeah,
it's just as well. This guy never read. He probably never read here, or he, or he would have got on Zemeckis style and had shots within shots. Yeah.
Okay, so Debbie, she glows and she flies at the window. I'm not sure why.
It's just the magic of the
so
time
the
vortex.
kids have appeared in the desert wasteland,
This was all shot. It doesn't look good because this was all shot indoors.
Yeah.
Apparently, they wanted to film it in Australia.
Okay.
But that didn't happen.
No.
So they just built
it looks really bad.
They built a sound. It's all shot on a soundstage.
Yeah.
And
with the old blue screen effects. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it looks awful.
It looks really bad. And they go down, they explore the school, they try to find a phone. They meet this, there's this teacher called Miniva down there. And when they talk to her, she opens her mouth and it stretches in this weird way and sand pours out of her. Sand just, what was that? Never explained.
Oh, why was she able to talk when she had sand inside her? They turn her around. It's like Psycho.
Yes.
You know, they turn her around. I expected her to be the mother from Psycho. Just it's going to be a corpse. But instead, it's just a regular-looking lady. And she says, yes? And then her mouth falls open and sand pours out. It's just some weird imagery.
Her mouth stretches open in special effect. What are any of these things? None of the other people in the building experienced this when they were transported.
No. But you know what? It's very Drifting Classroom.
Yes, but Umezz would have tried to explain it in some chain of events that wouldn't make sense, but it would have had follow-up. It wouldn't have just been isolated.
You're right, actually. Yeah, you're right. It's only superficially like the comic. Yeah. You're right.
So there's a student who's overweight that they call Piggy, that sort of flies right there.
Yes, it
have a piggy in it.
He's obsessed with food.
Yeah, nonstop. They figure out in the present.
Very much not an actor. None of these kids are actors.
No.
With the exception of Sho, who I think is an actor, but who is supposed to be playing a native English speaker, a guy whose English is.
And then when he has to speak English, he's really struggling.
Unfortunately, he's struggling.
Yeah.
He's the reader.
Yeah.
The leader.
Yes. So in the present, their scientist figures out that there's been a time slip.
Not only does he figure it out,
he just speculates it.
But he knows.
Yes.
You know, like the reporters are reporting on it.
Yeah.
I love this. We see Sakia's dog shivering in the rain, and the reporter starts reporting on it. So the school has vanished. Quote, "It has been concluded that this could be a time slip situation."
It just happens.
Yeah, in this world, time slips occur frequently. And then they interview Professor Jackie Yamatojiba, which is another fantastic name. And he basically explains what a time slip is.
Yeah.
Which is the thing the viewership are just familiar with.
Right.
Time slips must just happen.
Yeah.
In the world of the Drifting Classroom, the film.
So back.
And then later on, sorry.
Go ahead.
Later on, the kids all realise it's a time slip too.
Yes.
Oh yeah, a time slip, they say.
Yes, but how does it work? I understand how it works in Drifting Classroom because we've got the Bill and Ted thing. This is why I'm glad we mentioned Bill and Ted. Yeah. Because here, Sekiya goes out into the desert and gets his dog, and his dog is turned to bones.
Yes.
Why? Why is his dog turned to bones? Is time passing faster out there in the desert? I don't think so.
No, I think it's supposed to be the future, and his dog is like Hachiko.
Yeah.
It's just stayed at at the school waiting for him. And he's gone out, and no one's buried the dog.
Okay.
They just left its bones.
Here's what happens. So Sekiya goes crazy as he does in the comic. He takes hostages, there's a big fire.
Yeah.
He's trying to steal the food.
He kills all the teachers, although we're never told that that's what happens.
Except for Taggart. Taggart's still there.
Taggart's still there. Midori Sensei's still there, and there's an old lady whose name I forget.
She's the principal. Her name is
She's the principal. She's completely hopeless.
Yes, what was her name was Stackley or I can't remember. But anyway, yes, there's a three. She's an old lady who's always knitting. I have to honestly, I downloaded a pretty copy of this movie, but most of the time when they were speaking English, I had to read the Japanese subtitles to figure out what they were saying, and they kept calling her the Kocho, the principal.
Okay.
So I was like, okay.
I missed it. I'm not able to read Japanese, so I had no idea what was going on a lot of the time. Not that it matters.
No. But, okay, so Sekiya is he's choking Sho and trying to kill him, and Sho calls out his mother, mother, and mother in the past hears him. There's no Nishi in this version.
No.
He just called out to
And
his mother,
also,
was able to hear.
it's not Bill and Ted either, because she just...
No, she takes a baseball bat and she drops it into the crater where the school was, and it appears under a table where he's fighting.
Yeah.
Now, how did that happen? That's not a Bill and Ted situation. No. It just went through a time tunnel into the future and landed exactly where it needed to be.
It's odd that this film is so definite about the terminology time slip and spends so much time explaining it. And yet, at the same time, it's so much more wobbly about what's...
Exactly. Why not throw yourself in the pit and go find your son if you can just go in the pit and end up where they are?
And also, there's a bit... Yeah, and also the end of the film is very ambivalent.
Yes.
Very ambivalent. So, fine. You don't have to go into the level of detail that Umezz goes into over 2,000 pages about what's occurring.
Yeah.
But it's not consistent. On the one hand, we get detailed explanation of what a time slip is, and confirmation that that is what has occurred from multiple characters, saying that they recognise that this is a time slip. And then the film ends with them saying, oh, well, we don't really know what happened. Kids just go off into the future. There's some...
Yes, there's a bizarre line which is, it's, kids always go to the future, it's a basic rule of nature.
Yeah. So
what is that?
Now the film's trying to hedge its bets and say, this is a metaphor for aging.
Yes, for growing up.
Leaving home, for growing up.
Yes.
No, you said it was a time slip.
Yes. Okay, so meanwhile there's a character, instead of Otomo we have this character Mark, who we've mentioned. Mark is he's the only one that dresses in a school uniform for some reason. Why aren't the other kids in a school uniform?
This kid looks about 25.
Looks about 25. He calls himself an adult. He's supposed to be about 17. He has a girlfriend who looks about 12. She looks really young.
She also not a great English speaker. Reading a dialogue finick, talking about wanting to kiss him.
Yes, if he wins his big game, he won't shut up about his big game. They arrive in the future. It's a wasteland. He's like, today was supposed to be my big game. He keeps saying, my big game was supposed to be today.
Yeah,
over and over again. Every scene he's in, he's like, today was supposed to be my big game.
Yeah, it's pathetic. But it's like, it's very...
What? I don't know. What about the other players? Like, do you care about anything that's...
Well, he's the star. But this feels like an American high school cliche. The guy that... I mean... I think this is... the director's idea of what an American high school student would act like. Mm-hmm. He's obsessed with the big game.
Yeah.
And he's... he thinks he's more grown up than he actually is.
Yeah.
Thinks he's an alpha male. Anyway, he's always got his soccer ball. The soccer ball is practically a character in this movie.
Yes.
The number of scenes it's in. This is more...
In fact, it's of such importance that in some scenes it seemed to be doing something that I was supposed to be like...
It's got like
this
agency.
Is important, and I couldn't figure out what the importance of the ball was.
It's not an exaggeration to say that this soccer ball has more screen time than Wilson the volleyball.
Yeah. Yes. Well, there's scenes where it's bouncing in a specific way. I'm like, am I supposed to understand something from this?
Well, when they first come to the future, it starts bouncing by itself.
Yes.
And I think this shows that weirdness, like causality is being interfered with. Okay. A ball is bouncing higher with every bounce instead of
I see.
Bouncing lower. But it'll just be in shot. Like towards the end of the movie, Sho finds the memorial again. So the people in the past have erected a memorial to the children that died, to everybody that died in the explosion, or that they think died, or maybe they did die. Who knows? The film doesn't want it. The film tries to hedge its bets. How does he find it? He finds it because the ball's next to it.
Yes.
That's why he finds it. He goes to... How did the ball get there?
Yes.
Oh, because Mark kicks it away at some point. It's time for me to grow up. He kicks it away, and then Sho goes out to find the ball later, and it's landed next to what is a small model. So the memorial of the school.
The shot was so confusing to me.
Yes, because it's indistinguishable from the miniature shot of the school itself.
Yeah.
I did not know what to make of this when I first saw it. It's so funny.
It looks like Dark Place Hospital. First of all.
Well, but it does look like Dark Place Hospital. And the ball's next to it. Except this is exactly like the exterior shots of the school that we've been seeing up to this point, which is a miniature shot surrounded by normal sized sand, so much so that I thought, oh, the soccer ball is now gigantic.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And I thought Sho had become a giant somehow.
Yes.
I thought, is this allegorical? Sequence? What is this?
Yeah, that's what I thought too, because he'd just been in a Amok Time style duel with Mark to determine who was going to be the leader.
Right.
And I thought, is this the burden of leadership? He has to dig the school out of the sand next to a giant soccer ball?
Yeah.
No, he's just finding them. And then he's reading all their names, and I'm like, what is this? Why is he reading their names? Is this all the people he's responsible for? Why are all the teachers on there then? Oh, it's the memorial.
Yes. Yes.
It's just the world's dumbest memorial.
Yeah. That is in the comic. It's how they figure out. It's one of the key clues that they've traveled in the future. Is they find the memorial with all their names on it. Meanwhile, then the monster, the centipede monster attacks the cafeteria. It is not explained. Unlike the comic, we don't get any kind of explanation. It's just a mutant from the future.
Well, yeah, it's sort of explained by the end. This is the coming race. These are the occupants of this.
Yeah.
These are the natives.
Yeah.
Because we meet this puppet.
Yes.
That hangs out with you, and it's called Ya.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually a really great puppet. I don't know how they did this.
Yeah.
You can't see the wires. It's sort of floating around like a blimp with legs dangling under it.
Yeah, it looks like that probe droid from Empire Strikes Back a little bit.
Just a little bit.
If it was a organic being instead of a robot.
And it sort of urinates on people and gives them water.
Water, yes. It has it's like a water source.
Yeah. And like the Mark wants to kill it and eat it, and Shu wants to protect it.
I guess that's something that comes up in the comic is they're always trying to eat stuff. Whatever shows up, they're like, can we eat these starfish?
Yeah.
Or,
you need to eat stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of odd that Shu doesn't want to... Well, it's clearly intelligent, and it produces water, so Mark is in the wrong here.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at this point, we don't know that it's the baby stage of the centipede creature, which is driven away by
it's soothed.
Midori's piano playing. She plays the piano and the thing just calms down and goes away.
Yeah.
And it's not like a thing they do once. This happens twice in the movie.
Yeah.
She just play the piano all the time. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Why do you go there first? Why try to fight?
Well, she does end up playing the piano all the time.
Yes.
Because when it comes back, and she has to stay at the piano and never stop playing. Anyway, so this cockroach monster shows up. It looks much like the centipede monster from the manga. They drive it off with the piano. That's it.
Yes.
So I've just reiterated what you already said.
Yeah.
So all that other stuff that we just said happens. And after the fight between Mark and Sho, and when they discover that the memorial, then...
I want to point out one thing here, which is that anytime someone gets dirt on them, it's there for the rest of the movie. The continuity editing is maybe good in this movie, because
solid.
Anytime they get dirt, and some people are covered in dirt, and then they just stay that way the whole rest of the movie. Never changes.
That's a good point. Yes. Someone was keeping track of continuity. That's nice to see.
Yes. By the way, it stopped raining. It only rains sand, and so they're showering in sand and everything.
Yeah, we get a shower scene. Midori-sensei, we see Midori-sensei's breasts.
Yeah, showering in sand.
Which, at that point, I thought she was a different character, and I was very uncomfortable.
Yes.
I thought it was supposed to be one of the teenagers.
It's an Obayashiism, right? We had this in-house.
It was in-house as well. Teenagers. Yeah. So Sho decides to keep everyone's morale up. He's going to send all the boys out on a exploration mission.
Yes.
And all the girls are going to stay in the school, and Mark is going to look after them.
Yes.
And this is like mending fences with Mark.
Yeah.
After they've had their big dust up. Incidentally, they have this kind of, as I said, a muck time duel where they're not... where they're not supposed to use like the kid, Brains, or the Brain Box character, the Gomu character, he says you can't use any weapons. The only weapons you're allowed to use are your own bodies. So Mark, because he's 30, beats the shit out of Sho.
Yeah.
And then Sho throws sands in his eyes and beats the shit out of him. And I was like, well, you just threw sand in his eyes. You just failed the duel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the film forgot its own rules.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Sho becomes the leader.
So they go out into the desert, and they find this weird twister, this dust twister, and they end up inside it, and we get a psychedelic sequence, and they're able to see our present, the 20th century.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's weird. They come back to the school and a month has passed. They thought they were gone for like a day or whatever.
Now everyone is absolutely covered in dirt from head to toe.
Yes.
The people that stayed in... And everyone's dead.
Yeah, well, the school's been attacked by the monsters again. They come back for revenge. And Midori maybe has... Oh, before this, Teacher Taggart comes in. He gives some speech to
Troy
Midori
Donahue.
where he says... Now, by the way, the fist fight has happened to determine who's the leader of the school.
And the teachers did nothing to stop it.
Taggart is still alive.
Yeah.
Why isn't he the leader of the school? Why isn't he
exactly.
responsible for these kids? These kids are... Unlike the comic where all the adults are dead at this stage.
Yes, you're right.
For
I forgot to
some
mention that.
stupid reason, this teacher is still alive.
He's always
and
off.
it's like...
He's always off doing something else when they're electing the leader during the fight.
Yes.
What is he doing? What could he possibly be doing?
He reaches this climax of what is he doing here, because he comes in, he says to Midori, "You're a grown-up girl now," and then he wanders off into the desert like Paul Muad'Dib to die. And then why? Why did he do that?
Why did he do that?
Why did he walk off into the desert to die? I guess he decided she was grown up, so he didn't need to be alive anymore. I don't understand.
Is he like
I
that,
watched this scene twice. I rewound. I was like, what happened here? He comes in, he says, "You're a big girl now." And then he goes off and he gives a speech about, "I'll always remember her beautiful hair."
Yeah. It's really creepy. So, you know, it could be like, you know, Captain Oates in Antarctica, where he goes, you know, "I'm going out for a walk, I may be sometime." You know, so that the kids will have a better chance of surviving with the food and water that remains. So he goes off to die. But no, that's not the way it's played. Instead, he's talking about the smell of Midori's hair and how much he loves her. It's like he's killed himself because she's got a fiancé now.
Yeah.
That's how it comes on.
Yeah.
It's deeply creepy.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Troy Donahue is in his 50s, I think.
Yeah.
And it's not a youthful 50s because he's been doing some hard drinking.
Yeah.
And, as we said, Midori looks about 11.
Yeah.
So, every scene where she's calling him, "My teacher,"
Yeah.
and they're making googly eyes at one another, I was just really uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he kills himself because he can't be with her,
Yeah.
it seems.
Yeah. Bizarre. So bizarre.
Anyway, good, he's gone.
Okay, now the next thing I wrote in my there's another dust twister showing up at the school, and the next thing I wrote down was Ayumi's tear. Why did I write that down?
I don't know, but we got to rewind.
Okay.
Because we have to talk about okay, so if arms and faces coming out of backpacks was the best thing to happen in the comic, the best thing to happen in the movie is definitely the cockroach playing piano.
Oh my god. Yes, this is the point I want to get. This is why I rewound before. Midori has been replaced by this giant cockroach. This is the most houses scene in the whole thing.
It's because there was a lot of piano playing in the house.
So this giant monster is now, and they say Midori has turned into a monster, and then they say no.
She was killed by a monster.
She was killed by a monster. Now the monster's taken over the piano playing because they loved the piano so much.
It's not at all clear what's happened.
No.
All that matters is there's a guy in a cockroach suit playing piano.
Yeah.
Do you know who's in the cockroach suit?
No.
It's Obayashi.
Is it? I thought you were going to say Umezz because he's listed as a player.
I don't know who he plays.
I tried to look it up on the Japanese pages. I could not figure out who he played in
but
it.
according to the Japanese Wikipedia page, it's Obayashi in the cockroach suit playing a piece of, allegedly, of his own composition.
Oh, it wasn't Hisaishi. Interesting. Okay, well...
Or probably arranged by Hisaishi.
Yeah, okay.
But he's just fumbling, he's fucking up half the notes. It's so good. Did Midori turn into this thing? Is it...
They say that. They first say she turned into it, and then somebody else says no, she was killed. But this thing is sitting there playing the piano?
Has it been tamed? Is it civilized now by the music? We never find out because they've resolved to kill them all.
Yes.
And now we get... Mark decides to be the bait.
That's right. Oh, that's right. This whole sequence, yes.
They build an enormous kind of crossbow-like device that's going to launch a bolt that can penetrate multiple cockroaches.
Gets them all on the line.
Yes. And they need someone to be the bait. And Mark just says he'll be the bait.
Yes.
And it's his big... He says, "This is my big game."
Big game. And it's his big sacrifice. And then
we have some cuts back to him running around on a soccer pitch.
Yes.
He imagines himself on the soccer pitch. They shoot the bolt. It goes through all the cockroaches. It kills them all.
He's crushed.
He gets crushed by them, maybe?
Maybe.
He needs to die at this point.
Yes.
Because this is his redemption.
But his girl is Ayumi, and I think so I've written Ayumi's tear. I think there was something magical about her tear. Did something magic? I can't remember. Now,
but
it might have something to do with.
She really wanted to kiss him, but they never get there.
No.
Did she kiss his corpse?
I don't remember that happening.
No, I don't think that's what happened.
Finally, we discover that Ya matures into one of the full-size cockroach monsters.
Yep. And I don't know, he embraces Sho.
Yes.
Whatever reason. I guess they're going to be friends now. Like, Ya's
Yeah, they just all wander off.
Yeah, they don't wander into a sandworm's mouth. They just walk off into the distance.
They just walk off.
I guess Ya's going to be the
bridge.
Yeah.
Between the two races.
Maybe. If that's what's happening here.
So yeah, at some stage here, the kids decide they're gonna... I wish I could remember why I wrote down Amy's tear. I feel like it had some magic power. But they figure out about the because this Twister's coming back.
Twister arrives at the school. Incidentally, Twister has already turned one kid into a skeleton in the psychedelic sequence you mentioned earlier. So you have to be careful with this Twister. If you go into it, it's like... you get aged instantly.
Yeah, and Piggy tries to go into it. He's too heavy.
Because he's fat.
Yes. So they say, okay, let's get... he's a little kid, he should go back to his parents.
Because he's little, he's light enough to go into the...
And he's a little kid.
And he goes back and he takes Sho's locket. Sho wears an enormous locket with his mother's
with a picture of his mother's face.
You know, like every 16-year-old kid.
Yep.
Actually, Felix's computer background is his mom, actually.
Okay, does he also hug his mother after he gets out of the shower and hasn't put any clothes on yet? Probably not.
No.
This is weird. Yeah, he's looking at this thing all the time. I guess he's trying to substitute in what's in the comic, or it's Obayashi working in a symbolic ways that he does.
So there's Yugo's back takes and then we get the professor, who turns out presumably is the father of someone in the school.
Yes, he says that. Yeah,
but we never know who.
We don't know who. Yeah,
my guess would be the brain box kid, but they're different ethnicities because that kid's white.
Yeah. By the way, there's couple of black kids at the school. One of them I think is named Kenny, and one has to carry around the most racist piggy bank. I was like, what's going on in this scene? That. He had to. He bought a water bottle from someone.
Yeah.
Or he took money.
He gives his water to some other kid.
Yeah.
I think it's what's her face, Sakiko.
Yeah.
And then he offers to buy someone else's water for 50. The translation says 50 cents.
Okay.
Or actually, he says 50 cents in English. I don't know what the translation said. And Mark sells him his water.
Right.
And it's an example of Mark's cupidity and inability to, reconcile himself to where they are because he's thinking that this money is worth something.
Yes.
But forget that. The kid, Kenny, is carrying this piggy bank and it's like a... How do we even describe it?
Minstrel...
Yeah. It's like...
Kind of Sambo kind of... Yeah,
it's a Sambo thing. It's like a Sambo guy.
It was...
it's very racist.
It's super racist, but it's kind of like, okay, it's 87 in Japan, and they're still insensitive about that kind of stuff in Japan, so I'm not surprised by it.
It doesn't surprise me at all. This would be very on message for... This would be hilarious to, someone like Obayashi to give the black kid a Sambo piggy bank, I'm afraid. He would think that it was very clever and funny.
Yeah, or just appropriate.
Yeah.
Like that he would have this piggy bank. Yeah, not even a joke.
He would see it in a shop and think, this would be great for my movie with a black kid in it.
Yeah, so Yu's sent back to the present, and we see him with Emiko, Sho's mom, talking about Sho and stuff.
Yes, he tells her the whole story.
Yeah.
And, Midori Sensei's fiancé is there standing around as he has been the whole movie. The professor is there. The professor and Emiko have had a sort of this long speech that we mentioned earlier, where it's very allegorical or metaphorical or however you want to put it. It's saying a lot of things but not really saying anything at all.
And this sequence is dragged out for 5 minutes.
And then we see the children wearing...
alternating between the kids and the parents.
Then we see the kids clean and wearing...
Future clothes.
Future clothes, I guess. They're sort of like white... They're like togas, I guess.
Yes. Was there...
And they have English writing on them.
Doesn't Logan's Run have something a little bit like this?
They just seem like... They don't seem particularly...
Oh, yeah. It seems like they've cut them out of something else because they got letters.
They've got big letters on them. That doesn't look like... This isn't Jane Fonda style costumes.
No.
They're just sort of... It looks like sackcloth.
Yeah.
White.
Yeah.
And with
the
random letters from the alphabet on it.
Yes.
And what does this mean? You know, the memorial, we pan down the memorial and we see that on the memorial is a quote from Hamlet's soliloquy about the undiscovered country, which is death.
Yes.
So, okay, they might be dead. They might have gone to the future.
Yeah.
They might have gone to another dimension.
Yeah.
The film's saying, who knows?
Yes.
Which is fine, but wrong, because earlier on you very definitely said it was a time slip.
Yes.
So I'm sorry, you can't have it both ways, mate. You can't have
Who
your...
included this line about the undiscovered country? Who understood English and Shakespeare well enough to say this line is thematically going at this scene in the movie? Did they know what it meant?
So the film has a scriptwriter, but according to Wikipedia, the Japanese Wikipedia article, Obayashi rewrote the whole thing. So even though some other guys credited, apparently it's pretty much all Obayashi's work.
Okay.
So it's him. Maybe he did Shakespeare in school.
Okay.
But I mean, everybody knows. I mean, Hamlet's soliloquy is the most famous line in all of Shakespeare. If anyone knows,
to be or not to be is the most famous line.
It's part of the same.
Yes,
it's the same soliloquy.
Do people know that far deep into it? I don't think people know that. Past slings and arrows, I think a lot of people don't know.
About Outrageous Fortune. It's the same basic... Okay, it's the same part of the same text.
Yes,
okay, right.
Sure.
So, the undiscovered... Like, he's done Shakespeare at some point.
Okay.
He's remembered that much.
Yeah.
He says, I'll shove it in so that it may be there in the afterlife. And then we'll explicitly show them cleaned up and wearing almost angelic kind of clothing. But... You know, fine. But then how did you get back? How did you come back from the dead?
Well, we have to assume they're not dead. We have to assume they're just cleaned up and living in the future.
Then why put in the stuff about... Why put in Shakespeare's quote about the undiscovered country? And why have them... They could not possibly have got this clothing.
Look, you know what? The thing for me is... And it was something that hit me in the comic as well, is... When you go 1,000 years in the future, these kids are like, where are my mom and dad? I want to see my mom and dad. Are they alive? It's a wasteland out there. 100 years from now, your parents aren't going to be alive. No matter what. Right? So, it was weird to me that they were talking about their parents as if they were still alive when they knew they were in the future.
I think it's because at this point of the film, we've thrown away the certainty that we've been dealing, I suppose, with events up to that point, and we've decided to move into the world of ambiguity.
Okay.
We wanted to end it on a note of...
I didn't read it that way.
Mystery.
I read it as they're just in the future and they're gonna plant their trees or whatever.
Well, that's what they say they're going to do. And there's been rain, much like there's rain in the comic. But also we get these other things as well, like the long conversation between the professor and and Emiko, and this hint in the quote that appears on the memorial. A lot of people, you go online and it seems like people don't like this ending.
Okay.
Because this is one of the, as I said, there's almost nothing online about this movie. But you go online and people don't really like the ending. They don't like the ambiguity.
Yeah.
They think you should just be definite, especially since, I mean, I feel like, especially your film's gone out of its way to be definite earlier on.
Yeah.
Just stick to your guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit weird. If you go to the IMDb page,
okay,
there's about 8 or 9 reviews of the film, and about 8 of them are by people that appeared in the movie.
Wow.
Specifically, these kids that went to Kobe International School in the 80s who were not actors and for whom this was probably the best summer of their lives, of their young lives.
Yep.
The time they got to hang out on a film set, wrestle a cockroach,
yeah,
play in the mud, hobnob with actors and talk to Obayashi, apparently very nice to them. They all say, yeah, loved it, great experience. I don't have a problem with the ending. I don't understand what people are talking about. Over and over. It's worth a look. It's quite funny.
Okay.
Only other thing I would mention, I went through Troy Donahue's filmography.
Okay.
Hoping to find a comic book movie in there somewhere.
Okay.
You know, he had these big movies in the 50s, and thereafter it's all B movies.
Right.
As his star waned. During the 60s, he was very much on the out. Been sort of blackballed, but not for belonging to the Communist Party or anything, but just for being a drunk and difficult to work with. And one of his only pieces of work in that decade was to appear in a British film, Jules Verne's Rocket to the Moon.
Okay.
In 1967. Based, of course, on From the Earth to the Moon.
Right.
Which also inspired another significant piece of film from 1902.
Oh.
Which, the music of which, of course, is
our theme music.
Is our theme music.
Yeah, okay, excellent.
So I saw that and I thought, I'll mention that.
Okay, excellent. Okay, is that all the details we could find about this obscure movie?
Apparently it did well. It had a theatrical release. Made, well, let's see. According to the Wikipedia, distribution income 402 million yen.
Okay.
In 1987, that's like millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And I don't think this film cost millions of dollars to make.
Okay. Yeah, no.
Because they filmed it in the school and they used teenagers to do it who weren't actors. So I think it made some money.
Yeah.
But unlike House, it has not had a long life and currently is not on... I don't think it's out on any kind of...
No, it was on... most of the downloads I found were from the Japanese streamer called Wow Wow, I think.
Right.
But it's on like YouTube and places like that. You can find it around.
It did come out on videotape and Laserdisc.
Right.
But it's not in print at the moment. No. You can't get it.
Right.
Unlike House, which I think, you can get that on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Everybody loves that movie.
Yeah. Okay, is it votes time?
Yeah, votes.
Alright, how did you feel about this comic? Not to everyone's taste, for sure, but I love it.
I'm glad. Yeah, I can see... I'm looking at some toys here. We've got a giant cockroach. We've got Sho leaping across the crevasse.
We didn't even talk about them leaping across the chasm. There's a whole sequence where the kids have to leap across this, all the dozens of kids, and a lot of them aren't making the jump. They're falling to their deaths.
Yeah.
And it's really tense. Like he draws several panels and close-ups of them. Yeah.
And we've also got
you pushing Sekia around
on his tricycle and the ubiquitous bread roll and milk bottle.
Yes.
Because they're always eating these bread rolls and drinking these milk bottles, the only food they have. Yeah. You love this comic. I think I can't make up my mind.
Okay.
It's so long and at times it's hard to read. It's hard to see these kids suffering.
Yeah. Yes, you know what? I don't think it was meant to be read in these 700-page volumes.
Sure.
I imagine 10-year-old Japanese kids in 1972 reading a chapter in Weekly Shonen Sunday, running to school, talking about it on the playground with their kids. Did you read Drifting Classroom this week? Holy shit, they had to jump across a chasm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a week-to-week thing, and you forgot how the mummy ended up there and that it doesn't add up. You forgot how the entrance to the cave was there. You forget all that kind of stuff and you're on to the next chapter.
This must have absolutely blown some kids' minds when this came out in the 70s. I'm 100% sure. And I'm quite sure it's very influential because when I read it, I see a lot of... I think Junji Ito must like this comic.
Oh yeah, he is the the successor to Umezu for sure. He would be the first one to say that.
Right.
Yeah.
Alright, it's yay.
Okay.
It's yay.
Okay.
Because... there's just so much wild stuff.
Yes.
There's something in it for everyone.
Yeah.
You can just pick up one of these books, flip it to a random page, and you can just dive right in.
Yes.
They're in the future, and they're fighting starfish, blood-drinking starfishes.
Yeah.
Or flip it 10 pages back, there's a volcano!
Yeah.
Yeah. This is cool.
Yeah.
Yes, it's yay.
What did you make of this movie?
Okay. I think if I hadn't seen House a couple of weeks ago, I would have liked this movie a lot more.
I agree. It's weird to me because Drifting Classroom works. It has, to me, the comic has an internal logic. House has a kind of logic when you have to... House invites you to think about it and try to piece it together and work out what's happening, why things are happening the way they're happening. It forces you to try to figure out this little girl's mind. Somehow, Drifting Classroom, the movie, is not working, and I'm not sure what has gone missing in the transition.
Okay, for me it's the opposite.
Okay.
I think this movie's crazy.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, well, I think it's crazy. And the appeal of the movie is that it's crazy.
Yes.
You can sit there, this is a movie that you would sit down with some mates and go, wait till you see these high school kids living in Kobe in the 80s, trying to act. There's a giant cockroach monster. It's going to play the piano. Some kid's going to drink water in a time vortex and turn into bones. That's why we're watching this movie. However, if we're going to talk about a bonkers movie, House is 100 times as bonkers and 100 times as entertaining.
Yes,
so if I had to choose between, if we're talking about Obayashi's overclock, and I had to choose between Drifting Classroom or House, it's going to be House
all day,
every time.
Every time.
I would put that on for my mates when we're playing a board game or something.
Yeah.
Everybody stop. You know, the piano's about to eat that girl and spit out her arms and legs.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why it's an A for me. Because it's crazy, but it's not crazy enough.
You're right. If this comic didn't exist, and if House didn't exist, Drifting Classroom would be a yay, I think.
Yeah. But unfortunately,
it fails in comparison.
Yeah. And that feeds into your adaptation answer. So it's not a good adaptation.
You know, but there's other things about it too, like Mark as a soccer obsessed guy that's obsessed with this big game is not as compelling as Maku in House being obsessed with food, or all of them have their own little obsessions.
Maku.
Prof is like the smart one.
At least Piggy is a genuinely fat person, unlike Maku.
Yes.
Anyway, we gotta stop talking about
those icons in House
talking about House so much.
work better than the icons that he's tried to create in this movie. I don't think Mark is compelling as, because when you watch House, you can see how girls at that age would be like, this is my identity, this is yours, this is what I want my nickname to be.
House works much better as a standalone film,
Yeah.
and also as an example of craziness.
Yes.
Whereas this is only an example of craziness and not as a compelling one as some others.
Yes, that is it.
Yeah.
The characters don't work. Somehow it doesn't connect with how you felt as a kid in any way. Yeah.
So, on the other hand, for adaptation, I think that I'm going to vote yay for adaptation.
Okay.
Because I think an adaptation of Drifting Classroom has to be nuts.
Yes.
Because Drifting Classroom is nuts.
Yes.
That's its defining characteristic.
Yes.
There's some things going on, there's some themes, I guess, about the importance of caring for your family and stepping up to the plate when it's time to be in charge, but it's very much drenched under a tsunami of mushrooms, volcanoes, killer robots, blood-drinking mutants, gang warfare among students in the future with no food or drink. And if you want to turn that into a film, I reckon that film has to have a touch of craziness. And I feel like this film has that. And I mean, some of the things are there. I think Mark's not a bad version of Otomo. I mean, he's been changed to be a weird American jock. But Otomo was obsessed with status and wasn't a natural leader the way the former delinquent Shu, who had a heart of gold, turned out to be the man for the moment, whereas he wasn't. I mean, some of those things are there. There's a couple of other, you know, like we have the big fight in the kitchen. You know, he burns them with the cooking oil.
Yeah.
Sekia, we haven't even talked about the scene where Sekia grabs noodles and holds them on his face.
Oh yeah, his face is burned. Like this pot of noodles falls on his face, so he's being scorched by his noodles, and he's running around holding the noodles on his face instead of taking them off. Because, like Bela Lugosi in Bride of the Monster, holding the octopus onto himself. He's holding the noodles on his face, running around.
We haven't got time to stick these noodles on your face. You're just gonna have to act like you're struggling with them.
Yes.
You're fighting the noodles.
Yes.
That's so funny. He's staggering around the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like rubbing noodles on his face.
Yeah.
You know, Sho hits him in the face with a tomato.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Midori, I think, is it Midori and Sakiko are held hostage by him, and they throw eggs at him?
Yes.
They throw about 4 or 5 eggs and beat him in the face with everyone.
Yeah.
So he's got eggs dripping down his face, and they're slowing him down. It's just like something that would happen in Drifting Classroom. So, for me, it's not a super yay, but I think it captures some of the mania.
I think it's got some of it. I'm voting nay.
Good.
I don't think it's matched the level of intensity, but
No.
at the same time,
I would agree, no.
I don't think the intensity of the comic is filmable.
No.
I don't think you can make a movie that's this on all the time. Now, I've seen movies in the last few years that are pretty close. Like, what was the one where Harry Potter had those guns stuck on his hands?
I never saw that one.
It's,
Or like something like Crank.
Yeah, where it's like almost on all the time and there's like no downtime. I don't know that that's necessarily a movie you can make. I don't think they've chosen the best bits of Drifting Classroom. It's Also, it's very difficult to make on a budget. Like, they're wandering the wasteland and all this kind of stuff that we talked about.
They're just on a small
They're
soundstage.
trying to do a thing which they can't really do, but I think even at the writing level, they haven't chosen the best bits or figured it out.
That's fair. That's fair.
In quite the right way.
That's fair. Yeah, you could have picked. I don't know. If you're on a budget, I mean, they're sent to be. It's so Obayashi. Like, whenever those cockroach monsters are attacking, the screen gets red washed.
Yeah.
We get
he's trying to hide the effects, really.
But his movies are always like
But
that.
you know what? It actually reminded me, a lot of those shots in House reminded me of Evil Dead. And when those cockroaches attacked, it reminded me of the big face coming through in Evil Dead 2, where, Rain was distorting the screen and stretching it and stuff, so it kind of covers up the effect.
It's fine because the whole film's like that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's just a lot of shoddy green screen.
Yes.
And really, really terrible sets. When apparently they shot a lot of it in the school.
Yeah.
So I guess they filled the school with dirt.
Right. Yeah, they must have. Yeah.
But then whenever they're outside in the desert, it's clearly just a stage.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, it looks like the Dune miniseries.
I was going to ding ding! I was going to say that, but I wondered if it would be egregious. Yeah. Thank you. All right, so I was...
Where they're clearly on a set that's a few feet by a few feet, and
I was thinking exactly that, because it's sand again. All right, so for me, it's yay, but I'm very sympathetic towards your nay vote.
Okay.
Very sympathetic, yeah.
Okay, so please like, rate, review, subscribe. By the way, I noticed on Spotify that we actually have 6 ratings and we're at 5 stars on there. So people have been rating us on Spotify.
And only one of them is me.
Yes, right. And I apologize to everybody that listened on YouTube last week to our Here episode because there was a lot of trouble with that and had to chop off the ending.
Yeah, we got a copyright strike.
We got a copyright strike for...
Liquid.
Liquid
Rubbish,
Tavern.
it's fair use. It's less than 30 seconds.
Yeah, it was weird. Okay, please join our Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
Please check out our Instagram. There's nothing going on there.
See some great videos that Kumar did about 6 months ago.
But you can DM us through Instagram or Facebook. That's a way to reach us.
You can message Kumar on Twitter.
Yeah. Please leave a comment on whatever your platform is. Please send us an email through the email address in the show notes. And please join our Patreon at patreon.com/comicbookmovieoblivion, all one word. Okay, next week we're going to go even more obscure, but easy to find. We're going to do Drifting School, which is the U.S. made-for-TV version of Drifting Classroom from, I think, the early mid-90s. It's on YouTube. You can find it. The audio's pretty bad on that one, worse than this one.
Wow.
And the quality's bad. I think it was only ever got a VHS release, but we're lucky it's got that. I didn't know it existed until last week when I was looking this up. And there's also an 11-episode Japanese J-drama series from the early 2000s, which I had a quick look at and just looks cheap, like they shot it on video, as all J-dramas are, especially at that point in time.
But I'm excited to see an American version of this story and how it's going to compare to Obayashi's version.
Apparently it's pretty bad, but I'm looking forward to watching
Well,
it.
the worse the better.
Yeah. Alright, so see you next week.
ちょうど破り取られたチケットの文字のように思い出はもう何も約束はしないけど会うたび変わってた記憶のスケッチ消さない